The unemployment rate in South Africa is at crisis levels, with the latest stats revealing that more and more young people are joining the unemployment queues. 7.9 million people are now jobless in the country. Among the hardest hit sectors is what Statistics South Africa calls elementary occupations. That includes jobs like street vendors, sweepers, helpers and cleaners. These jobs are predominantly carried out by women. For more on this, we're joined by Stephen Burnstone, the CEO of 8020. Stephen, a rather worrying picture that has been painted.
Yeah, thanks, Tudu. Thanks for having me on your show. Indeed, I think maybe to take a step back, first off, just it's worth noting that South Africa does have the highest unemployment rate in the world. And our rate of unemployment continues to increase. We saw released by Stats SA this last week. Our unemployment rate is almost 33%. They did paint a slightly sort of more positive picture by saying almost 260,000 new jobs were created over the last quarter, giving us 16.2 million employed South Africans. But that still leaves a lot of South Africans that are unemployed. And as you said, there's a particularly distressed sector that's not being catered for, like you mentioned, elementary occupations. That would include your sweepers, your domestic workers, street vendors. That's a sector that's particularly exposed to poor economic conditions.
The highest unemployment rate in the world. Does it come as a surprise, as we are said to be the most unequal society in the world? And so what then needs to be done so that this, again, is not a conversation come Agenda 2030, which is in about 7 years' time?
Yes, so I'm not an economist, and I'm not a politician, but I do have lots of opinions on that. We help our clients engage with customers, better understand them, and figure out how to engage with them. And a concern for us is when we look at the South African population, we've created what we call the 80-20 national segmentation. We divide South Africans, broadly speaking, into 8 main segments and then a number of sub-segments. But 2 of those key segments, what we call mothers of the nation, which is about 8 million South Africans, and then what we call hustling males, which makes up about 6 million South Africans. Those are 2 of the poorest segments in our country. And their monthly income is about 1,000 for mothers of the nation, less than that for hustling males. And those are individuals typically unmarried but living in much larger households, so living with extended family. And they're just trying to make ends meet. They in the informal sector, accessing grants or performing these elementary occupations that we spoke about. I think an item there that is concerning is our employment levels still have not returned to what they were pre-COVID. So we lost about 2.2 million jobs over the lockdown period in 2020. And we've recovered about 1.9 million. So we're still short of where we were a few years back. But yet the number of unemployed people has risen from what it was 7 million back then to 7.9 million. So lots of people without employment. And like I said, this elementary occupation space, typically dominated by females, domestic workers. There's about 850,000 domestic workers in South Africa. That's 200,000 less than in 2020. And those types of occupations are particularly exposed to poor economic conditions when households or employers are looking for an opportunity to save money. Those are the kinds of occupations that go first because the skills required are seen to be less skilled.
What are hustling males? And does mothers of the nation refer to women who are caregivers?
Yes. So remember that these are broad segments that we've created. There's 46 sub-segments, and we've actually got 1,500 micro-segments. So everyone is different. So it's quite hard sometimes to generalize too much. But yes, mothers of the nation, like I said, make up about 7 million females in the country, predominantly females, 99% female. Low income, 40% of them are grant recipients. They're unemployed or underemployed. On average, 35 years old. Like I said, on average, 1,000 rand per month in income. And they are either the head of the household, so they're providing for their extended household, receiving or sending remittances across the country, and typically are employed in the sort of domestic workers or helpers and cleaners sector. Whereas hustling males, as the name suggests, are mostly male, 33 years old, lower income than mothers of the nation, very little credit. And what's unfortunate is given their age, they grew up at a time, when there was the promise of the new South Africa. But unfortunately, that hasn't been realized through, maybe poor schooling, poor skills transfer and training. 60% of hustling males are unemployed and are trying to survive day to day.
Stephen, thank you very much for your time this morning. Stephen Burnstone, 8020 CEO.